The Indiana Fever might have just committed the most expensive mistake in women's basketball history. And the numbers don't lie. While every major corporation on the planet is throwing money at Caitlin Clark, the one organization that actually has her on their roster seems to be doing everything possible to push her out the door. We're talking about a 2-3-year-old who sells out arenas that were half empty for years, breaks television rating records every single time she steps on the court, and generates more revenue for this league than anyone before her. But behind the sellout crowds and the highlight reels, something far more troubling is building. The coaching decisions don't add up. The injury timeline raises questions nobody seems willing to ask out loud. And rumors are already circulating about what happens when her contract expires. This is the story nobody is telling you. Here's something that should make your jaw drop. Caitlin Clark is projected to earn around $11 million this year. Her WNBA salary? A grand total of $78,000. That's less than 1% of what she actually makes. To put that into perspective, she reportedly earns more from a single Instagram post than she does from an entire month of playing professional basketball. Let that sink in for a second. Nike saw exactly what they had and moved fast. Reports indicate they locked her into an 8-year deal worth $28 million, a number that immediately drew comparisons to the contracts handed to the biggest names in men's basketball. Gatorade signed her. State Farm signed her. Wilson created a signature basketball line built around her name. These aren't small regional partnerships. These are some of the largest brands on the planet, and every single one of them recognized her commercial power before the Fever's front office apparently did. What makes this even more striking is the gap between how the world's biggest corporations treat her and how her own franchise operates. The companies writing those checks understand exactly what Caitlin Clark represents. She isn't just a basketball player at this point. She's a cultural moment. She's the kind of athlete that comes around once in a generation, and the brands paying her know it. The Fever, meanwhile, continues operating as though the financial earthquake happening around them has nothing to do with the woman suiting up in their jersey every night. And that disconnect between what she earns and how she's managed is where this whole story starts to unravel. 4 years at Iowa. Every single game played. It didn't matter if she was banged up, running on fumes, or playing through the kind of discomfort that would sideline most athletes. Caitlin Clark showed up, performed, and dominated. She built an entire reputation around being unbreakable, and college basketball fans watched her prove it night after night on the biggest stages the sport had to offer. Then she enters the professional ranks, and suddenly, recurring groin injuries begin pulling her out of games with a frequency that has raised more than a few eyebrows. The timing of these issues, the nature of them, and the way they keep resurfacing has led a growing number of fans and analysts to start asking questions that the organization doesn't seem eager to answer. What makes this harder to ignore is what happens even when she's limited. Playing through what reports describe as genuine physical discomfort, she's still averaging over 9 assists per game. She's still making every player around her better. She's still the engine running this offense, even with one hand essentially tied behind her back. Her shooting numbers during her comeback stretch told a difficult story. Under 30% from the field overall, and just 14% from 3. But the assists kept coming, and the wins kept following her. The question isn't whether she's struggling. The question is why a player who never broke down across 4 brutal college seasons is suddenly fragile in a professional environment that should have better resources. And not enough people are pushing for that answer. Just when the on-court drama felt overwhelming enough, the situation off the court took a genuinely disturbing turn. A 5-year-old man was recently sentenced after sending hundreds of unsettling messages to Caitlin and traveling to Indianapolis under the belief that the two of them were in a romantic relationship. The details that emerged during the case were deeply troubling, painting a picture of an obsession that had gone far beyond anything resembling normal fan behavior. The impact on Caitlin's daily life was real and immediate. Reports indicate she was forced to adjust her public presence, pulling back from certain interactions and changing routines she'd maintained throughout her rise to stardom, all in the interest of basic personal safety. For someone whose entire brand is built on accessibility and connection with fans, that kind of forced withdrawal carries its own quiet cost. Here's the part that sticks with you, though. A deeply troubled individual who crossed every conceivable boundary still recognized what Caitlin Clark meant as a public figure. He valued her presence enough to upend his entire life around it. The cruel irony is that the organization signing her paychecks appears far less aware of what they actually have. The Stalker situation resolved itself through the court system. The organizational blindness, unfortunately, doesn't have a hearing date scheduled. What Caitlin is navigating off the court would test anyone's mental strength. The fact that she keeps competing at the level she does makes the front office's handling of her situation even harder to justify. Want to understand exactly how much Caitlin Clark means to this franchise in purely financial terms? Look at what happens to ticket prices the moment she's unavailable. When she's playing, secondary market prices regularly climb to $1,200. The demand is consistent, aggressive, and unlike anything the Fever have experienced in years. Arenas that spent the better part of a decade struggling to fill seats are suddenly turning people away. Then she goes down with an injury. Overnight, those same ticket prices drop by 40%. Not a gradual decline, not a slow adjustment. A free fall that happens within hours of an announcement. The All-Star game, held in her home stadium, watched its average ticket price collapse from $121 to $72 the moment word spread that Caitlin wouldn't be participating. In her own building, at the league's showcase event. Television tells the same story. Games featuring Caitlin Clark regularly pull in around 1 million viewers. Without her, that number struggles to crack 200,000. That's not a dip, that's a crater. And it's a crater the league's own broadcast partners can see in real time. The Indiana front office is sitting in the middle of all of this data, watching it happen in plain sight, and somehow continuing to make decisions that risk the very asset producing those numbers. The financial case for protecting Caitlin Clark, for building everything around keeping her healthy and happy, isn't complicated. It's written in the ticket sales and the ratings every single week. Someone in that building just isn't reading it. Stephanie White came in with a mandate to stabilize this franchise and turn promise into results. What's actually unfolded has looked, at least from the outside, like something considerably more complicated. Reports and visible incidents have raised genuine questions about whether the coaching approach is designed to maximize Caitlin's impact or quietly manage it. The moment that went viral said more than any press conference could. During a timeout, White publicly directed Caitlin to vacate a coach's chair in front of her teammates and the assembled media. It was a small moment in the grand scheme of things, but the optics were impossible to ignore. The message it sent, intentionally or not, was that no matter how large the star burns, the hierarchy in that building has a specific order, and Caitlin Clark sits below it. The double standard playing out on the court has become equally difficult to rationalize. Veterans shooting 2 for 14 from the field are praised publicly for maintaining their competitive confidence. Caitlin takes one contested 3 in a difficult situation and finds herself on the bench, subject to a different set of expectations than everyone around her. Referees, analysts, and fans have all noticed. The coaching staff acts as though nobody has. Reports suggest White's philosophy centers on long-term development and team structure, which sounds reasonable in isolation. But when your franchise player is the primary reason people are buying tickets, tuning in, and talking about your team, bending her game to fit a rigid system starts to look less like coaching and more like something else entirely. While the Fever is consumed with internal power dynamics, Caitlin Clark is quietly constructing something that operates completely independently of them. And it's already bigger than most people realize. During All-Star voting, she pulled in over 1.2 million votes, more than any other player in the league, by a distance. The fan engagement surrounding her isn't just high, it's in a category of its own. Her endorsement portfolio at 23 years old already rivals the commercial value of entire team rosters. Industry estimates put her annual earnings from sponsorships and appearances at figures that would make most professional athletes envious, regardless of gender or sport. She has built a personal brand so powerful that the Fever's logo is almost incidental to it. People aren't buying merchandise because of Indiana, they're buying it because of the name on the back. The social media numbers reinforce this at every turn. Online conversation around the WNBA drops by roughly 70% when Caitlyn isn't playing or posting. She isn't just a player in this league. She is, functionally, its marketing department. The visibility she generates for every team she plays against, every city she visits, and every broadcast she appears in is enormous. And she's doing it while the organization responsible for her development treats her like someone who needs to earn her place. When 86% of surveyed Fever fans indicate they would stop supporting the franchise if she left, that number stops being a statistic and starts being a warning. The Fever just hasn't decided to hear it yet. This is where the conversation shifts from frustrating to genuinely fascinating, because the rest of the sports world is already making moves. Caitlyn Clark's contract runs through 2027, and reports suggest that multiple franchises have been quietly restructuring their financial situations with that date circled. The interest isn't casual. It's strategic, and it's serious. The New York Liberty are reportedly among the most aggressive suitors, with league insiders suggesting they're prepared to offer a maximum contract paired with a marketing arrangement that would dwarf anything Indiana has put on the table. The commercial appeal of Caitlyn Clark in the New York market, with its media infrastructure and national reach, is the kind of opportunity franchise executives genuinely dream about. The Las Vegas Aces have also been connected to her name in various reports, and given that city's appetite for spectacle and star power, the fit seems almost too obvious. Rumors suggest the kind of welcome package Vegas could assemble would be unlike anything women's basketball has seen. European leagues have reportedly entered the conversation as well, with speculation around seven-figure annual offers that would make her WNBA salary look even more absurd by comparison. Ice Cube reportedly extended a $5 million offer through his Big Three league, a number that grabbed headlines precisely because of how it dwarfs her current professional earnings. Whether that specific offer is viable long-term or not, it illustrates something important. The market for Caitlyn Clark is enormous, active, and completely global. The Fever is one option among many, and right now, they might not even be the best one. The challenges Caitlyn faces don't stop at Indiana's city limits. A situation during a playoff matchup against the Connecticut Sun brought the broader dynamic into sharp focus. Jonquel Jones made contact with Caitlyn's eye during the game, an incident that was described publicly as accidental. But what happened in the aftermath raised questions that were harder to dismiss. Reports indicated that Connecticut's management made efforts to influence how the media covered the incident, with suggestions that certain coverage be minimized or removed entirely. Whether those reports are entirely accurate or represent one side of a complicated situation, the response to them online was immediate and intense. Fans who had already been watching Caitlyn absorb physical contact all season read the story as confirmation of something they'd suspected for a while. The physicality directed at her throughout the season has been a consistent topic of discussion. Analysts and former players have noted that she tends to absorb contact at a rate that draws less whistle attention than might be expected for a player of her profile. Whether that's a referee calibration issue, a byproduct of being a rookie in a league where veterans set the physical tone, or something more deliberate, the pattern has been visible enough to generate genuine conversation. What the Connecticut situation really exposed is the level of competitive pressure her presence creates across the entire league. Every team she plays raises its intensity. Every organization around her feels the weight of what she represents. And not all of that energy is coming from a place of respect. Zoom out from the Fever for a moment, and a larger issue comes into focus. WNBA players currently receive approximately 9% of league revenues. For context, NBA players negotiate for roughly 50%. The gap isn't just significant. It's a structural reality that shapes everything about how the league operates, how its stars are compensated, and how long top talent is willing to stay. Now drop Caitlyn Clark into that equation, a player who has reportedly boosted overall league attendance by 40% in her first season. A player whose presence correlates with merchandise sales figures that, by some estimates, have increased 500% in certain categories. a player who is single-handedly responsible for making the WNBA appointment television for a demographic that wasn't previously engaged with the sport at all. The revenue she generates doesn't stay with her. It flows into a system that was designed before she existed, and that system hasn't adjusted to account for what she's worth. The Fever benefits from her presence in ways that extend far beyond wins and losses. Corporate sponsorship conversations, local media deals, arena partnerships, all of it moves in a more favorable direction when Caitlin Clark is the centerpiece. And yet the organizational behavior suggests a franchise more concerned with maintaining internal control than with maximizing the opportunity in front of them. The WNBA's revenue-sharing model may be the structural villain here, but the Fever's choices within that model have made a complicated situation considerably worse. What should be a golden era for this franchise is quietly becoming a ticking clock. Here's where everything lands. The Indiana Fever stumbled into the most valuable asset in the history of women's basketball. They didn't build her, recruit her through some genius scouting operation, or create the conditions that made her great. She arrived. And what they've done with that arrival is becoming a cautionary tale that business schools may genuinely study one day. Rumors are already circulating that Caitlin's inner circle is laying groundwork for 2027, exploring markets, building relationships, and preparing for a future that may not involve Indiana at all. If that happens, the Fever won't just lose a player. They'll lose the entire universe that came with her. The sold-out arenas, the television ratings, the sponsorship conversations, the cultural relevance they hadn't experienced in years. All of it leaves with her. The real question isn't whether Caitlin Clark needs the Indiana Fever. It's whether women's basketball can afford for its brightest star to spend her prime years somewhere she isn't fully valued. That answer should concern everyone watching. Stay locked with my channel, Simply Explained, for more updates.